This is a State Board of Education. Are we ready, Ajit? All right. State Board of Education Academic Standards and Assessment Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. It is 9:30 a.m. This virtual meeting will be live streamed on the State Board's website for public access. On the board of the State Board of Ed members who are here are myself, Estela Lopez, Martha Prue, Awilda Riesco, and Malia Seavey. All right. There are no introductions. Oh, we do. Can we introduce ourselves? Because I know, Chris, you weren't with us in our last meeting, correct?
No.
Correct.
All right. So can we do a round of introductions? I'm Eric Clemens, State Board of Ed. Awilda?
Yes, Awilda Riasco. By the way, good morning, everyone. State Board of Ed.
Estela Lopez, Vice Chair of the Board.
Martha Prue, State Board of Ed.
I think that leaves me.
That is you.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Ajit. You can call them out.
Gopalakrishnan, Chief Performance Officer and at the Department of Education and co-staff to this committee along with my colleagues. Irene, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Irene Parisi, Chief Academic Officer for the State Department of Education.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Soto, Director of Innovation and Partnerships for the department.
And Eric, I'd suggest that the Waterbury and Putnam folks who are on the call, maybe we can introduce them when we get to the FAFSA portion of this meeting.
Fantastic. I see Shondell. Hi, Shondell. Happy New Year. All right. With the introductions, we can go to the action item. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 16th, 2020 meeting?
So move.
All in favor?
You need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I want to second it, but before I second it, I want to make a correction.
Okay, thanks.
So thank you, Chair. I'm being put down as doctor, and I don't have my doctoral degree yet. So I'd like that to be revised, okay? Because I acknowledge those that have PhDs. I do have a master's degree, but I haven't completed my doctoral yet. So can that be corrected, Chair?
So noted. So noted.
And then I second it.
Thank you. So there is a second. I will abstain because I was not at that meeting. I wasn't present. So there is an abstention here from me. And so all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Just one abstention. All right, Ajit, the agenda is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you. The first topic that we have is FAFSA completion. We discussed it briefly at the full state board meeting last week, but we figured we'd actually go a little deeper today. I want to publicly thank State Board Vice Chair Lopez for for pushing the agency 2+ years ago to look into this and have a partnership with our colleagues at the Office for Higher Education, who are the financial aid agency, to procure the FAFSA data on a weekly basis that allows us to share it with the district securely and report publicly. But I'm thrilled to pass the baton to my dear friend and colleague at the department, Chris Soto, who will take it from here to lead us into new areas with regard to FAFSA completion. Chris.
Great. Thank you, Ajit, and good morning to our board members and guests. As I shared during the board meeting, obviously we knew that we wanted to push in and lean in on our FAFSA completion efforts. And so, the planning around this pretty much happened before COVID, and COVID pretty much just accelerated it and accelerated the need and urgency to do some stuff around FAFSA completion. I'm going to just share a quick slide just so you have an idea. So can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. Great. So we typically finish the year around 68, 69%, which leaves us fourth in the nation when it comes to FAFSA completion. But when you think about that 30% of students, 30% of seniors who don't complete a FAFSA, it amounts to 12,000 students, and that's a lot of students. And when you tie that to the amount of money in federal aid that's left on the table, particularly in Pell Grants, it's upwards of $17 million. So that's kind of the lay of the land. That's the context on why we wanted to have a challenge. And then the only other thing that I'll share from this slide is that for the most part, every state in the country saw a decline in FAFSA completions, both at the end of the year from last year and then also starting the year once the cycle opens. So the cycle opens in October, and most states were pretty much behind where they were at the same time last year. We started at, I want to say, 14%, and we've been cutting that number down. This slide, it's 7%. We might even be at 6% right now. And so what we did was we brainstormed a FAFSA completion challenge, and that was based on the National College Attainment Network's FAFSA challenge that they've done 2 years in a row nationwide. And so we basically just said we want to create the same thing here, which would challenge schools to increase their FAFSA completion rates 5% at a minimum. And what NCAN saw was that on average, even though they had the baseline minimum of 5%, they saw cities were increasing their FAFSA completion rates on average 10%. Some of them going beyond that, obviously some of them going a little bit below that. And so we knew that from the data, thankfully, from the work that Ajit mentioned with OHE, getting that data from the feds and then providing the data to school districts, last year was our first year where we could really drill down and see the district completion level data. And not only the district, but the high school completion level data. So I'll give you an example. In New Haven, we have high schools that were completing at 60 and 70%, and some that were completing at 40%. And so because we were able, last year was our first year to really dive into that data, we could see the disparities in communities, hence us really needing to drill down on a challenge and identify the schools and districts that needed the most support. And the last thing I'll say on the challenge, and then I'll turn it over to our colleagues from Putnam and Waterbury, is that we wanted to be able to offer some resources so that districts could do something different. If they were having challenges with FAFSA completion, we couldn't just say, hey, do these new strategies without any resources, right? So we were able to secure some resources to give districts some small seed grants for their high schools, so that way they can be innovative and creative and do things maybe that they were hindered from doing in the past. And so I think, today is a great testament to that, where we have 2 districts that have increased their FAFSA completion rate by about 28 and 29% respectively, just in the 2 weeks that the challenge started. For Putnam, it's different. They have 1 high school, so it's basically the district numbers by and large. And then for Waterbury, it's 1 high school in particular. So we're happy to see that. So I'm going to turn it over first to our colleagues in Waterbury. I know Janice Epperson and team is on the line. Janice? And basically, just to kind of frame the conversation, again, we've seen a 29% increase in Waterbury. And so if you could just kind of share what is different this year for our board members, and how has the challenge maybe encouraged your team to think and work differently than years past?
You're mute.
Janice?
I need a T-shirt that says that. Somebody doing business and buy it.
And if you want to introduce your team, that'd be great as well.
I will. So good morning, Chris, and good morning, everyone on the call. Thank you all so much for diligently monitoring the percentages for FAFSA. We started FAFSA Frenzy last year because we too realized that the rates were extremely low, and some schools were higher than others. So and to steal your phrase, we wanted to see what the sauce was like in some of those areas and kind of replicate. So on the team with me this morning, I have Tara Battistoni, who is our data guru, and she directs everything, all things data for Waterbury. And then I have Dave Basil, who is the counselor at Wilby, and Wilby is one of the schools that we're talking about today. So we have just embraced everything FAFSA for the challenge, and we've actually started, although the funds we just got approved But we started working on FAFSA and just trying to take what Career Academy was doing to make their averages and their percentages so high, and just bite off of it to make sure that all of our kids were getting and provided the same opportunities so far as incentivizing the parents, incentivizing the students. And they're still kids, although they're high schools and they're seniors, they like things. So we were trying to figure out what things would motivate them to complete the FAFSA, and just having some more internal meetings. We just hired our college and career readiness director, so she is on board. And so we're just trying to make all things FAFSA. So I would like for Tara to actually speak to the data and talk about how we're monitoring that and how she sends out all of the reports as often as she gets them. So we keep monitoring. So Tara, I'll let you speak.
Thank you. So as Dr. Epperson stated, I do work at the district level. My title is Supervisor of Research and Testing. So I support all the schools, not just Wilby High School, although Wilby is one of 7. So every time new reports are available, I pull down the data from EdSite Secure. And the biggest thing that we do is identify students that have changed from the last iteration. So I match between the 2 data sets and identify for schools what students have had an update in status. So schools and staff can see easily who has changed since the last iteration. They don't have to go student by student to see who has changed. We also go a little bit further in terms of drilling down to student demographics, where we have students identified that are special education, English learners, and those who are participating in our virtual environment. So we know who is going to be in school and a captive audience and who is exclusively school, and we have to connect with them at home. So that's something I send out to all of the schools on a regular basis when those new data files are updated. Then I will turn it over to Mr. Basil for how they go ahead and move forward with the data at the individual school level.
Thank you, Tara. We are proud to be part of this initiative. We get a lot of support from the district itself, and now receiving the extra support from the state has come in very handy. We've never been able to offer Saturday sessions, which we're doing now, 2 Saturdays a month. We believe that that's going to be a big factor. And then these incentives that are offered, we believe, especially for our population, that that's really going to trigger some growth in the numbers. A lot of our students and families have more of a passive type attitude. So we really have to try hard to engage them. And with these incentives, it gives us a good chance to reach them and to do well. So in addition to that, we do what everybody else is doing with layering different approaches between webinars and the Google Classroom, connecting FAFSA with the Connecticut PACT program. We insert FAFSA into everything, including our college and career fairs. We also have a mechanism that the district just bought this year called Parent Square that has a student square aspect to it that allows us to send individual messages, updates, reminders to students through text, through email, through some means that we can get a hold of them. I believe that the student square is very similar to what Chris Soto was advertising with the Signal Vine. I believe that they serve similar purposes there. So I'm glad we're taking advantage of that. So we're just going to continue to push forward and have meetings with the parents. We have found that in-person meetings work out the best. And if we can keep generating those meetings, we'll do that. You know, we make sure that we wipe down the areas after they leave. We make sure that the families feel safe coming in. But we've definitely found that having them come in and working with them step by step is probably our best approach.
And also, Chris, I want to say that we had a small plan before the governor's challenge, but you guys forced us, and rightfully so, and nicely, we were forced to really dig into that plan and to make it come to life. So at the surface, we were like pre-metamorphic stage, and so we metamorphed into a butterfly. So right now we're flying, not as high as we want to, but we are moving along with the challenge. And the Super Saturdays that Dave referred to, this was a part of our plan, and that you guys accepted at the state level for us to basically what he said, incentivize the parents, incentivize the students, and get the completed rates that we desire. We are also partnering with Bridge to Success and some other community partners to help with the stressful part of the FAFSA, which is the financial piece, the income tax piece. So VITA has agreed to come on, and they will be also participating in the Saturday sessions at each school to help us get the parents to complete the income tax pieces that they kind of shy away from it, because they're private and they don't want a lot of that out, but at least they're offering us to help. So we really appreciate it. We are watching the numbers. We are keeping up with the increases and just want to make sure that all goes well.
Great. Thank you to the Waterbury team. I'll open it up to questions.
Can I go first, Chris? And
Absolutely.
A couple of things. Estella, when I leave, will you chair the meeting, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question, and I think Dr. Epperson kind of alluded to it. David, when you said that some families are passive, I didn't know exactly what you meant by that. So I was wondering what did that mean?
That when we send out information through the Parent Square, through the IRIS alerts, emails and mailings, that we don't get much of a response. And it's not that they don't want to, it's just, I guess they're overwhelmed with all sorts of things that are going on in their lives right now. And we usually find that we reach them when they reach out to us for another reason. Then we'll just say, oh, by the way, we noticed that the FAFSA hasn't been completed. Can we help you with that? We can do this in person. We can do it through a Google Meet, and we usually catch them like that.
Got you. Thank you. And that kind of connects to what you were talking about, Dr. Epperson, in terms of them being private as it relates to their income tax returns. And I think also I'm trying to be provocative here, because I think a lot of the conversation isn't had around the lack of trust in government that folks have, and very much like the vaccine, right? And so I think I think that conversation needs to be lifted up as it relates to FAFSA as well. So
absolutely, thank you.
If I thank you, Chair. If I may enhance what Eric had mentioned about the super, you called it Super Saturdays. I remember years ago we started College Goal Sundays. I don't know if you're all shaking your head, right?
Yes.
So therefore, my question is to either one of you is that what about is this information when we talk about parents? Are we getting to their level? Because you break it down by race, demographic, ethnicity, gender, probably English learners, right? Is this information shared with them in Spanish, or maybe their comfortable language that they feel comfortable maybe addressing, and that's a way of also gaining their confidence. Back to what Eric said about those sensitive documents that they don't want to expose their finances, etc.
Yes, ma'am. So we also, a part of that Super Saturday, we have 2 counselors per school. So we have 2 sessions, and inside of those sessions, we have a translator in each session. So we try to make sure that we accommodate those needs, because we know, like you said, that is a problem. And parents, if they can't get it in the language that they speak predominantly, then they kind of shy away from it. So we address that early on. So we not only have 2 counselors, we have 2 translators.
Yeah. And then my second piece of the question, and I won't hold back from the other questions, is to Chris. Chris, how do we then convey and communicate to institutions of higher ed, okay, that this is happening? And how is that going to take place?
Yeah, so I would say that I've never seen higher ed coalesce as much as I have in the last 6 months.
Of course.
Nathan First, who's the VP of admissions at UConn, He's been leading basically the group of college admissions and financial aid professionals in the state of Connecticut. And so he convened them this year. He basically identified, look, we have a problem with college applications, and it was consistent around all the institutions. And so naturally they said, well, what can we do to basically increase college applications in the state? And FAFSA became a part of that conversation. So then they were like, wait, there's a FAFSA challenge going on. So, I've been, involved in all these meetings with higher ed where typically we might not be involved in those meetings. But, I think to Nathan's leadership and the rest of the colleges that really want to be in communities. I mean, I just received an email today, and just off the top of my head, just the higher ed partners have hosted about 15 FAFSA sessions, right? And that's, and they might have, some schools might have done something here and there, but this is a coordinated effort between every Connecticut college and university in the state to help students complete the FAFSA and complete their college applications. I've never seen that before, and so it's great.
Yeah, that was my question to Dr. Epperson. And by the way, nice to see you today. I will, this is more for higher ed than for high schools. That's why, higher ed, and my question was, how are you working with higher ed? Because higher ed benefits from students filling out the FAFSA. That's that's where they're going. It helps not only in admission, it helps in financial aid, it helps in retention. I became interested in this subject, in this topic, because I was helping with Naugatuck Valley Community College. And when they did the data analysis, it showed that those students that didn't have FAFSA were dropping out at a higher rate. So we began to look, and then that's how I found out through NCAN that Connecticut had an app that wasn't being used that could tell each high school how many students were filling out FAFSA. And then I went to Ajit, and we had meetings and we talked, and I said, how come it's not being used? How come that is not being shared? And it became an issue of how to do it. So this is really higher ed's responsibility in a way to help the high schools. They should be there. They should be doing FAFSA in Spanish. They should be involving everybody. And Eric, FAFSA is very intrusive because you have to fill out, you have to use your income tax. Parents, don't know. I remember I was in Chicago, I had to do FAFSA for my daughter, and I had to use the income tax from Puerto Rico, and I'm calling the hotline at 9 o'clock at night. I'm saying to myself, I have a PhD, I can do this. And I'm crying because it was so complicated and so difficult, and I felt so stupid. Until finally, I did it. So, it's a pain. It's really intrusive. It's not easy. It's whatever. So to involve families and to have them have the trust is really, it requires social skills and creating an environment of trust and involvement, engagement. But the beneficiary is higher ed.
Wow.
High schools don't gain anything. It's the higher ed that gains. So they should be up there. They should be fighting. They should be doing the workshops. And I hope, at Waterbury, that's what's happening. I do hope that everybody's there trying to help you guys, because this is very important and critical. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the critical for minority students. Financial aid is a critical thing. Absolutely. And if we're going to go to more free community colleges are built on Pell Grant. They are not free. It's really, they're going to give the funding in addition to Pell Grant. That's how it's free.
I think one of the other things is we're trying to stress changing the mindset of our students too, because a lot of them don't want to complete the FAFSA because today they're not going to college, but they're 17, 18-year-olds. So tomorrow they might be going, or they're not going right now at graduation. But then in August, they decide they want to go. So we're trying to make them think, okay, FAFSA is your safety net. So if you go on and complete it, then whether you change your mind or not, you have it to fall back on. But we want you to complete it and have it and not use it versus not complete it and need it and don't have it.
Right. And it can be used for certificates. It doesn't have to be used only for, associate degrees. It can be used for certificates and other things. So, I mean, it's, I'm just delighted. I can die now and go to heaven,
Estela, thumbs up to you. thumbs up to you, Estelle. I want to make sure that I repeated that. It's because higher education now is starting to implement financial literacy, folks, that are bilingual. Okay, like at Central, we have a financial literacy. We have Gladys Colon Lawson, who takes care of translating to our Latino parents and students, and then we also have the non-Latino financial aid office. But that's the best thing that happened, because then there's this collaboration, like you said, Estela, with the community and folks within the institution to be able to exercise the access of education to all of our students of color or non-color students. So I think this is great. And Estela, again, I mean, this is very good. It means a lot to me, because I get frustrated when I hear, like you said, that the student says, I can't get this document, or I don't understand this, or I don't know how to answer this question. And they're calling the hotline and it takes them forever to get back. And then, as you know, if you don't have a translator behind those lines, they're going to hang up and they're going to give up. So they're not going to continue the process of going into any college. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. I'm going to exit the meeting. But Martha, I know you haven't spoken, and if you haven't wanted to chime in, that'd be great. But I will get back to y'all. Have a great day, okay? Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
Do well.
All right, Dr. Epperson, Dave, Tara, good to meet you.
Like they say in Broadway, break a leg.
All right.
Martha, do you have any questions for Waterbury? Or from,
no,
on this
I think it's wonderful what you're doing. And I'm glad that, Estella, that you mentioned the tie to certificates, because I'm here from a manufacturing background. Yeah. And it's so important. I hope your students understand that they can be used for different types of programming. And bravo, well done, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Estela.
No, Chris, go ahead for the next.
Yeah, I want to introduce our team from Putnam High School and the Putnam School District. And thank you. Well, Waterbury, you're more than welcome to stay on. But if you have, I'm sure you have plenty of other things to do and students to work with. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Courtney and team from Putnam.
Hello.
Hi.
It's actually just me today, because the other counselor is out sick, and the principal, who I've been working very closely with, had another meeting too. But I just wanted to kind of echo a lot of what Waterbury said. We have worked really hard with trying to meet parents where they are. We have come from a really small district, and I almost feel like there's like a sense of like Putnam feels, and that side of the state feels like we are like a different area of the state in a way. Mm-hmm. So parents are a lot less trusting of going to kind of like those big scale, like FAFSA bowls and things like that, whereas they rely very heavily on our school and our team. And it's really just me and one other counselor there. So we've really tackled this by essentially going through the list and targeting kids and families individually, and trying to get them to complete their goals that way. They tend to not necessarily want to work with a stranger. So we do have like a great relationship with the community college, QVCC, that is closest to us, which has a kind of a FAFSA coordinator there. But parents, I've noticed, they don't like releasing their information to strangers, but they are more likely going to release and talk to myself, the other counselor, or another teacher in the building that they've grown to trust. So we really utilize that. And one thing we've done with the seed money is kind of, once we figure out what works for a parent and what their schedule is, if myself or the other guidance counselor can't meet with them at whatever time they need to, we organize. I have a couple other teachers who are really well versed in the FAFSA, and I've had kind of trained them with it too. And of course, I'm always on call if they need me, but they've been also meeting with parents and families as needed as well. And one thing that's actually in a weird way with COVID and this year, now that we're not in this rush of like, we have no idea what's going on and how to best meet our kids like we were at the end of last year, we've kind of gotten a good sense on how to use those remote resources for or into our benefit. Like I have students who almost like instantaneously can message me on Teams and just say like, hey, I'm working on this one thing. And this goes with college applications as well. But what do I need to do for this? Or a parent on Parent Square doing the same thing. So we've reached out that way. We've created a shopper's guide ad. So that'll get to parents. We've worked with the radio station that a lot of our parents listen to. And additionally, we've also created a scholarship with a little bit of that money. So I made a scholarship. It's two $250 scholarships. And what I'm going to do is on March, well, probably a couple of days after March 1st, I told kids if they had completed their FAFSA by March 1st, they'd be automatically entered into this scholarship. And that seems to have really incentivized our kids as well. Because even though the FAFSA would help them get money, the idea of a scholarship to them is, I guess, more rewarding. So we've really utilized that. We utilize Signalvine with messaging parents. But yeah, we really just kind of done one-on-one targeting and really just trying to get to parents wherever they are.
Excellent, excellent. Years ago, I became aware of a model in the University of Texas at El Paso, which is a very, it's heavily Latino and very poor city. And what they developed for FAFSA was sort of the Tupperware model or the Avon model, where they train somebody, a woman that was part of the community, to talk FAFSA to their other women friends. They figure women were more critical in the college admission process, women head of families, than men were. So by training these women, then they were trusted among the community and they could initiate the process, which is, in a way, you're doing that. You know, it's really creating trust into the process, which is very intrusive. It's a very intrusive process. So I really commend you, and I'm delighted. I was going to ask Waterbury, but maybe I'll ask you, do you have a goal of a percentage you want to shift of FAFSA completion?
I would like 100%. I know that's not realistic, but that's what I'm shooting for. But I'm hoping for at least, I really want to get about 90%.
Bravo. Chris, you know, whatever they reach, whatever percentage, if it's anything above 80%, please make sure that we know at the board level. Okay.
Of course. Yeah. And, you know, I think it's important to, go ahead, Awilda. And
I'm wondering if school districts can also be recognized for, right?
Yeah, that's part of the challenge. So, that's exactly part of the challenge.
That's why it's called the challenge, right, Chris? And
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that's the cool thing is like districts have you know, they're super focused on the strategies that they're implementing, but at the end of the day, it's a challenge, and so they're like New London and Norwich, for instance, kind of have a friendly competition going, and so districts are kind of creating these organic challenges. But the other important point that I think is critical here is that, you know, we have Putnam, which is a very different district than Waterbury, right? And but you know, as you're hearing, a lot of some of these themes are starting to emerge, right? It's that one-on-one connection, that trust that parents have, and that's what we've always known even before COVID. It's just now that we have kind of, you know, these challenges now having to do it remotely and virtually. But I just think it's important, you know, and it's nice to see that we have a district like Putnam and a district like Waterbury who are both seeing increases because, you know, they're implementing those best practice strategies.
I just have
Martha, go ahead.
But kudos to you, Courtney, and your work in Putnam. And one of the themes that, as Chris, you're talking about things that you can extrapolate from the two experiences we've heard about today, is that this is a very labor-intensive effort. And as we pivot and we continue and expand this, I'm wondering how all the stakeholders can help these districts, you know, maintain that level of effort. Hopefully we'll, you know, get some natural, you know, like it'll start to roll by itself a little bit, but it seems like the keys to the techniques are time and energy and people.
Yeah, and you know, Courtney and I were emailing last week, and I think what's even more impressive, I think, about Putnam is, you know, when you think about Hartford or Waterbury, like Waterbury had referenced Bridge to Success, you know, Hartford, New Haven, these communities have strong ecosystems of community-based partners, right? And I reached out to Courtney because I said, hey, I know that, there's not this, there's not a community foundation out there. There's not these community-based organizations. So if we need to work directly as the agency and us supporting, like, let's do that, because that's a very different landscape. And so it's even more impressive that Putnam's kind of doing this without those community-based partners.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Very, very. And I think, again, Martha, I think that's higher education has a responsibility. I want higher education to be a very strong partner. This is to benefit them. Mm-hmm. So, the high school should be saying to them, you better be present, demanding that they be present. And I know Chris is saying that they're willing, because it benefits them. It really benefits them. So, they have to be at the table.
And Courtney, I like the idea that you offer scholarships. And scholarships is like a what? Are you doing it like a contest? Is that what you meant? Or scholarships for?
It's essentially what I'm doing. So we have actually a really big donor, like scholarship donor base in Putnam from like people who graduated in like the 60s. So we already have kind of a scholarship program every end of the year and come May, early June for our seniors. So I actually kind of reached out to the person who coordinates that, and I created a scholarship that way. So the only requirements that the kid has to have is they have to have submitted the FAFSA by March 1st. And they need to write just a brief statement as to what essentially their goals are in the future and how the money will help them. So those are kind of my two qualifying things. And then it goes to the scholarship committee the school has, and they can decide. But it seems kids like the competition. So
of course, it's a good idea. I like that.
Thanks.
And again, completing FAFSA early is an indicator of really making it to college by fall. Those that complete FAFSA later, they may be not sure how they're going to finance their college career. So they delay or don't come into college. You lose them in the summertime. So all this is incredibly powerful. It's very good. Tennessee, years ago when they started the Tennessee Promise, which is free community colleges, they made FAFSA completion part of being able to have the free college tuition thing. And the result is a lot of more people going to community college, beneficial results across the board. So this is just very powerful stuff. It's not the only thing, but it's a critical thing, especially for students of color and low-income students. And in Putnam, I know there are a lot of low-income students that are in the area. So this is great, and thank you, Courtney, for the work that you're doing. This is very impressive, and Chris for bringing the urban and the not so urban, the eastern part of the state. So thank you so much. Martha, do you have any comments or any questions? Chris, anything else regarding Putnam?
No, that's it. Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bravo.
Thank you. And Chris, thank you. Keep us appraised. And again, we want to recognize those districts that I think the model that Ajit uses for students is not only how high they reach, but the how much they improve.
The growth. Yeah. So
Exactly.
Let me just clarify that. So part of the challenge is we have 16 districts with 26 high schools. And so the two schools that are within that cohort that have the highest growth, as you said, Estella, not the highest percentage, but the highest growth from last year, those two districts will actually get a monetary grant award. And then every school that's not in that cohort will also be recognized by the governor and commissioner. We're planning to basically have, a district visit. So there's even a challenge for those schools and districts that are not in the cohort and getting resources, because we wanted, the FAFSA challenge to be statewide, not just for those schools.
Excellent. And I imagine, once you create a culture, the students become aware of this, and they themselves are knowledgeable about what needs to happen. This is creating change in the culture. And from what you said, Chris, you're working with NCAN, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm so happy. Oh my God, you made my day, Thank you so much. Thank you
This
so
is
much.
a confluence of so many different forces and energies to get to this point, and there's good momentum, as you could see, and we're excited. I put the link to the report that we have online for FAFSA Completion. You'll notice that it updates roughly every week, and that's the data that we get from the Office of Higher Ed. I just got word that this week's data is in, and the team is preparing that data, and later today this will update to show the data as of yesterday. So it's this is as current as any reporting that we do with our data. So again, thanks, Chris, for pushing this work forward. It's pretty impressive. And just one last clarification is that in the data that we get from the Office of Higher Ed, there is no financial information.
Right.
So we don't get any financial information or anything. All we get is a status of whether the student has completed, is in progress, or not completed. So it's really just a status flag just to let the districts know who is completed and who's not completed.
And for Martha and I will to be aware that each high school can tell who has completed and who hasn't. It's very individual. We don't know that. We see the percentage, but the high school itself has access to seeing who has completed, who hasn't. So the interventions can be very tight. This is just magnificent. It's just
yeah, and I would be curious to know later on as to in terms of demographics. Our first generation low income student families, are they submitting and completing their FAFSA?
They are not, I will that.
I know, yes. But with this, we can compare. We have more of a right of a. Am I correct? Or
yes,
yes, we can. Mm-hmm. On the public site, we are reporting school level information, like we're visualizing school level information. District level data is also there. But because the data are at the student level, we can conduct all kinds of analysis. And I think Tara from Waterbury was talking about that she takes the data we give and then matches it. And this we're doing every week. We're matching this live to our current grade 12 student enrollment. So if Putnam or Waterbury, for example, a student moves into those districts from some other district, they will get the most recent FAFSA completion status for that student that we have on file. So that even if a student moves in, they get all their academic history, but they also get their FAFSA completion status right away when students are moving and transitioning from one district to another, which does happen, even with seniors.
Thank you, Ajit.
Ajit, before I forget, I also want to make sure that Chris or you or whoever thanks the governor for mentioning and endorsing this, because that was something that, when we started our conversation, we wanted it to happen. And so I'm just delighted that the governor sees the incredible benefit of championing this effort. So please tell, on behalf of the board, we are very grateful.
Will do.
Really great work, Chris.
And I just got word, Chris,
they have to be at the table. We want them at the table. Don't be lazy.
Chris, I just got word that the new data is up there. So it has been updated as of this morning. Just got word. So kudos to the team in our office.
Yeah. Did you do the FAFSA for your children, Ajit? Did you complete FAFSA for you?
My younger ones are not seniors, but I did do it for my older one who's now a sophomore at UConn. Yep.
Okay. Good. Thank you. I think everybody should do it. You don't. It should be an obligation to fill it out. And it's simplified now. I haven't seen it in simplified form, but when I had to do it, I had to use my Puerto Rican income tax and then translate it into whatever. It was a nightmare. It was absolute nightmare. Anyway, thank you again for this. I'm delighted. I'm just delighted, and thank you. So
we'll come to a future meeting with additional CCR work that's happening behind the scenes between myself, Irene, and Chris, and we'll probably come back at another meeting. There are lots of other partnerships happening that we think you should all know about too. So
No, I
FAFSA
know.
is just one part of it, but it's an exciting part.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. Very delighted.
Well,
So
thank
again,
you, Chris, and thank
we
you
move
to
to the next
Waterbury and
topic.
Putnam.
Thank you, Chris. Good seeing you.
I called
Thank
on
you.
him last minute, so thank you, Chris. Really appreciate
No problem.
it. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
The school district accountability.
Yeah, and I think we can keep this part brief. I had this on the agenda, but then we also shared it at the state board, full state board meeting. And I'll just quickly pull up a slide here just to share. And I believe you could see my slide.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the bottom line is that in 2019-20, that is last year in the spring, usually we give our state assessments in the spring. But last spring, they were canceled because we suddenly went to remote. The federal government gave the flexibility to cancel all testing and accountability. We did complete the assessment of our English learners last year in the winter. So that was done just before the pandemic hit here. But canceling last year's testing has sort of downstream impacts in terms of how we do accountability this year. And Estella, you mentioned growth. When we don't have last year's scores, we can't really do a formal growth this year. And that's just one of the situations. Plus, as you know, students are learning in very different ways. Schools are going from hybrid to remote, et cetera. So what we're doing or what we're planning for this year is to not implement school and district accountability, even in this year, 2021 year, because we felt like while we should assess our students to know where they are, but we should not use those results for accountability. So the federal government realized this and did give us flexibility to seek approval to do a few things. One is we should decouple assessment results from accountability. So that's kind of step one. Step two is, we usually take the assessment results along with other indicators and we provide an accountability index or a summative rating for a school or district. So we've asked the federal government permission to not do that and also not categorize any schools into category 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and also delay the identification of our new turnaround and focus schools. These are schools that our turnaround office supports. We already have a list of schools. But what we're saying is that we shouldn't use this year's test results to identify any new schools or state support. So it's informational results to learn how our students are doing, to prepare for next year, but not using it to rate schools this year. So that's kind of the basic premise of this year's plan. But I know I did at the board meeting as well, but I just wanted to reiterate here that we've already submitted our application requesting this flexibility to the federal government. I don't know when we'll hear, and we'll have to see where that goes. But we're in conversations with our federal colleagues, but also colleagues in other states, just to see. Several other states have submitted similar applications as well.
Yeah, and Ajit, I think the question on everybody's mind and on every state is also the issue of learning recovery. How, and I understand that the interventions, several of them have been identified. Summer school, extending the school day, and all that. But I think in terms of the content, and that's part of the assessment piece. How will that be handled? I just want to get a better sense of how will that be handled. And I totally agree that the assessment should not be given. I'm totally in agreement with that. And
we're actually proposing to give the assessment, but not use it for accountability. So we're saying we should assess where students are, but not use the results for accountability.
But will you do it in person, the assessment, or will you do it remotely?
Good question. Good chunk of our students are attending in person, either in a hybrid format or sometimes even in a fully in-person format. Even for remote students, we have basically said that try to do as much of the assessment in person as possible. Our academic assessments don't come into play till April, May. So they're not something, I mean, the EL assessments are being administered now. And in fact, we were just looking at the numbers. About a third of our English learners have already started the EL assessment. And this is different from our academic assessment, like our math and science and English assessment. The EL assessment is a slightly different assessment. But that assessment's already started. For the ELA, math, and science, the academic assessments, they don't come until like April, May timeframe.
Okay.
And we have a remote option for that administration that we're piloting, and we'll have sort of as a last resort if a student cannot come into school at all. Okay. There is a way to securely administer the state assessment remotely to students who are home and valid score. It is a new frontier. We're exploring that for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But will you get the data of this assessment? Will the state have it, or will it remain at the school level? How would it be?
Oh no, just like in every other year, the state will have these results. We'll have these results. The earliest we'll have it will be sometime in June, because that's generally when we get these results. We also monitor it on an ongoing basis because we do get the results even during the assessment window so that we can see how things are going. So, but I do expect most of the students to be assessed in the May timeframe, not earlier.
Okay. And then the learning recovery plans will be built around using that that information.
There's Irene. I was gonna.
Good, Irene.
Great.
Yes, good question. And we have a work group right now defining what learning recovery is for our agency and certainly for the state and for our learners. So there will be an update on the details of that. We're benchmarking right now against what other states have released. There's not a lot of information out there, but we want to get this right. We want to make sure that it's practical, that it's kind of lean, that it's not an exhaustive document. That we can take it and turn it over to districts and really guide their plan for now, for the spring, and for the future, and certainly how to be sensible with their use of the assessments to target unfinished learning.
Mm-hmm. And Ajit, I have a question. Is this relevant to SAT scores too? Because now they're blind.
Yes, in the sense that SAT is our state assessment and used for accountability. When it was canceled last year, we gave students the chance to take the SAT this year in the fall when they were seniors. Usually they would have taken it as juniors, but we let them take it as seniors, and we had vouchers for students' credits so that they didn't have to pay for it if they took it on a school day or even a Saturday as part of a national administration. So we made that flexibility available, and currently, the SAT is scheduled to be given in March, April. SAT does not have a remote option. It is an in-person administration, but there are makeup dates that extend into April. And I believe this year we're also extending there is a makeup opportunity even in May. So we're for the juniors this year. So that option is still part of it. But again, what we're saying is we'll give the test to the best of our ability. Districts will test their students to the best of our ability. But we shouldn't use those results to rate schools and rank districts and categorize them into buckets.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Irene, I'm very interested in the whole notion of learning recovery, because I think that's going to be discussed broadly and widely in the state. And I'm a believer because I've met many people I know many people that have missed school for whatever reasons. I have a very good friend who has a PhD, and he had polio, so he stayed a year in bed, and when he was a child, and he has a PhD. So there are many ways of not necessarily losing learning if you are not in school. So that notion to me that somehow learning is lost is not something that I accept. I do understand that in some sequential courses or skill-based courses like math and all that, if you miss certain areas, then it's difficult to build because it's scaffolding or whatever you want to call it. But so and I do understand that it has to be somehow individualized. You can't really do something for everybody, but I think that's sort of the messaging that has to be sent, that that this is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and this is not necessarily the end of the world, black hole, that this is, it can be whatever. So I look forward to learning from you guys, and so we can be educated and be supportive of your efforts. To me, this is very critical in terms of what's coming on this semester, So I don't know if Martha or I will.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an area of great interest for me, and I know the board, and also from what Awilda and Woody Exley and I saw among state legislators, and really the public. People want to know what's happening, and I look forward to hearing what the state education's plan is, because learning loss is stressful to many people along the way. And then the other question I had is not totally tied to our discussion, but I was wondering if we have any indications about high school graduation rates. Do we know if our seniors are on track to graduate, or is the pandemic going to cause some problems and maybe some surprises in that type of data when it's available?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Irene.
No, I was just going to say that in meeting with districts, I think they're being creative in how students are accumulating their credits towards graduation, and certainly demonstrating the competencies, if you will, to graduate, such as like the capstone or senior demonstration project. So in my discussions with high school principals and just districts, they are being creative to ensure that all students have access to those credits in order to graduate. As far as percentage, and if everyone, I have not heard that there's a significant disruption to their track to graduate, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, any indications. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the 1920 graduation rates will be available a little bit later in this year, in the spring, early spring. That's usually when we release the graduation rates. And I would agree with Irene's characterization, especially because we gave some flexibilities last year too, in terms of how they should grade, and giving students some options to complete their work. So I think I don't anticipate a major disruption, if you will, in terms of graduation rates, but we'll have to see the long-term effects too.
Yeah.
Beyond just this 1 year.
Irene, in the learning recovery thing, and this is sort of my personal approach to it. Sometimes the board, the department wants to have a finished product before they bring it to the board. And I think this is a topic because it's fuzzy in many ways. It's not it doesn't have the borders that some other topics have. It may be helpful to us to educate us and to be better supporters of you if you brainstorm a little bit with us, perhaps within this committee, which is public, but still, regarding how you intend to approach it. That way we're prepared to be your supporters. And I think again, that's my sort of my DNA. I do like that a thought-provoking discussion and thinking about and processing things and being able to ask questions so I better understand it, and then can again back whatever you guys are going to. I don't know what Martha feels and Awilda feels, but that's sort of my preference. And,
I truly appreciate that. And I was thinking you must have been a fly on the wall while we were discussing in our meetings, because you're saying the same things that we're saying. We don't want to take the path of loss. We don't want to identify the students as losers in a sense, we want it to be about acceleration, but what does that mean to us? We want we want to leverage our mastery-based learning concept and resources that we've already put out there. So everything you're saying is in line with what we're thinking about. And sooner rather than later, yes, we want to be able to come back and give you something that you can react to and be a thought partner with us for sure. So I do appreciate that. Yes.
No, thank you. I know I appreciated that you welcome that suggestion. So and convene, because I think this committee doesn't meet again till May, right, Ajit?
Actually, our next meeting is Tuesday, April 13th.
Okay. So again, whatever it fits, you may want to use that to talk to us. It depends on how you're moving. So okay. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Sure. Thank you.
No, thank you. I will, or Martha, any other comments? Anything else?
No, thank you for the updates. It's good to hear.
Do you have any curriculum issues coming up? Any curriculum or standards coming up, or anything in your work plan that we need to be aware?
Yes, and I'll coordinate with Ajit on the agenda. But we do want to be able to bring forward a new document. They're called design principles for curricula. So really the purpose of that is to support districts in how they design or develop curricula at the local level. So it's essentially saying that, yes, it's local control, but these are things that you should not fail to consider in your design. So it's everything that we've been talking about. So basically saying that good, high impact, high quality curriculum must have these 6 core values in there, or design principles. So it's new language, it's a new approach. So we're very excited about it. But yes, we will be coming to you to share that and get your feedback.
Good. Thank you.
That's exciting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is. It's been exciting work to engage the whole turnaround office as well as the academic team. Ajit's team and himself, he's weighed in on it too along the way. So it's new territory, new language, but super excited by it.
And it's interesting because you mentioned high impact practices. And if you recall, Martha, I mentioned that at our when I was doing my swearing in, is because our students need high impact practices a lot in many ways, because they're not learning all the same way. So they need to find where they're So that I'm looking forward to hearing more about where does this lead us to? Okay.
Sure. No, thank you.
Right. And
thank you, Irene.
And just a request that maybe for next fall, you want to do an update on the implementation of the Black and Latin.
Sure. We can do that. Yes. Thank you. Good idea.
Yeah. You want to bring that to to this committee too.
Yep. We can do that.
Absolutely. Because that's been very visible. And I really, when Ingrid Canada suggested that she's being requested to do workshops, it somehow was connected to that curriculum driving some of the requests and some of the things that are happening. So I think it's good. I just want to commend you guys. I mean, the last board meeting and this meeting today, the data, I've always believed that data is such critical component of helping to make decisions. And although I'm also a believer of the other side, just seeing the stories and hearing the what's happening on the ground, data, it's critical. So seeing the vision of the data in that is being presented, Ajita, and please thank the people in your area for EdSci. I had a conversation with Puerto Rico, and I said, you don't have to talk to me, just go to EdSci, and everything is there. Just going there and swimming the data. It's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely, and now the FAFSA. I mean, this is like, oh my God, my dream come true. I'm just in heaven. It's snowing. It looks like Russia outside, but I'm in tropical paradise. Snows every day.
Wait till we come back with some more updates. I think you're going to be even happier with some of the other things that we're working on. So.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing happening, and which is really powerful, is the data tells you how you have to target the intervention. It's sort of what's happening with the analogy is not it's very imperfect, but with cancer research, that depending on the type of cancer, you target the intervention, you target the medicine, you target whatever. And what the department then does is provide support for that intervention. It's not saying from above, this is what everybody needs to do, but targeting support so these places that are behind can have the opportunity to grow and to do better. So it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So I'm very delighted. So
well, we couldn't do it
again.
without you. So we appreciate your leadership and the partnership too with the board. As I've said before, the level of dialogue and the thinking together, it's very comforting, and we appreciate you supporting us in the work. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Martha and Awila, who both look like teenagers today. You know, I'm going, gosh. Adi, thank you so much again, and I will see you. Take care, okay? And stay safe.
Do we need a motion to adjourn, or we're good? Just
I don't
adjourn.
care.
Yes, we need a motion. Yes, I set the meeting to adjourn. I motion. Somebody?
I'll second it.
Yes. And nice job,
Great.
and Estella, thank you. I know you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you.
passionate,
Thank you.
committed. Yeah. And Ajit and Irene, nice to see you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.